Welcome, guys, to Cold Wans. If you're not familiar with what Cold Wans is, Cold Wans is a 5-minute ice plunge into the post-plunge warm-up where we get to know our guest. On the note of our guest, today's guest will be Sophie Campbell, the second woman to partake in Cold Wans.
Hello.
How are you feeling today, mate?
I'm excited for it. I think it'll be good.
Well, I suppose that's all I need to hear. Are you ready to get in this ice bath?
I'm ready for it. Be
Let's get it.
great. Oh man.
Whenever you're ready.
So let's just do it. I can't even sit down in it. I'm too fucking short. It's actually not that bad. I was expecting so much worse.
I appreciate this reaction. This just shows that anyone can do it.
I mean, it's cold like, but it's not terrible. It's not terrible.
That's exactly what I want to hear. So, today's topic we're going to talk about is whether you think people are more fortunate, less fortunate, or have bad and good luck.
Mm-hmm.
Or if you would perceive that as just a bad choice of life or a bad choice of kind of situation. What do you think?
Well, I think it kind of depends on the person, because I do feel like obviously some people do have bad luck, some people do have good luck. But it also kind of depends on what they do with their life. Like if they're wanting to, become like super like popular, famous, all this stuff, but they don't take the right steps towards it, they're not going to achieve that goal, and they might just put that down to bad luck because they're like self-conscious to admit that they're not wanting to do that for themselves. But at the same time, I also do feel like there is people that are born into just better lives. Like there's
Absolutely.
people who are born into, having like richer parents, or like living in better neighborhoods, or like being surrounded by like a lot of friends and stuff. And when it comes to like getting certain jobs and that, they might have people that help them get those. So
Yeah.
that is sort of deemed as good luck, I'd say.
Yeah. So I suppose, yeah, if you're born into like a more rich or more wealthy family that have an opportunity to kind of help you along the way, you could definitely see how opportunity would definitely arise and be a lot more there and a lot more present.
Mm-hmm.
But in the same way, I kind of also think I'm not really against bad luck being a thing, but I think in a lot of ways bad luck is used as a kind of a veil to surpass kind of what you're going through,
Yeah.
and it's definitely can be used as looking at an excuse, I would say. Like, but in the same way, like you say, there's absolutely people that definitely do have a rougher upbringing. You know what I mean? Like,
Mm-hmm.
and the rougher the upbringing, obviously, the harder it is to kind of reach your goals and maybe make ends meet at some points. But in the grand scheme of things, I think bad luck, in my opinion, doesn't exist as such. I think it is
Yeah.
definitely a product of the time, and definitely social media as well.
Oh, don't. Yeah, social media is quite bad for it, especially because you've got people that flaunt all their like good riches and everything that they get in life, but at the same time, they might have earned it because they've worked really, really hard to get it. And then you got the other people that are looking at that, knowing that they might never achieve that in their life, and they're like, "You're just doomed because you've got bad luck." But at the same time, they're not taking those steps to get to that point in their life.
That's definitely a good point as well. Like, people having to kind of look up to what social media has to bring now as well
Mm-hmm.
definitely brings that kind of veil across as well with the bad luck, because a lot of these people maybe that you see on social media, they seem like they got it quite well at the beginning and
Yeah.
stuff because they just like you say, flaunt their money, flaunt like their popularity, their fame. But I think every single person that you kind of see nowadays has probably started from the bottom down, maybe with money, maybe
Mm-hmm.
without money,
Yeah.
but they've all went through the same kind of process of having to kind of climb up the ladder. And I think because no one just gets given fame as such.
Yeah.
Unless you're born into a famous family, you might then get a little bit of help along the
Yeah.
way. But when you want to do something, the only way you're going to actually achieve that is if you do it.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
there's always a process there. Whether it's easy or it's hard, there's still a process, and I think that's the difference. It's what sets people like that apart is whether they want to do it or they don't want to do it.
Yeah.
And I kind of spoke about how like you're your own you are your own biggest enemy because you're the only one that can stop you from doing what you want to do.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, like, you can surround yourself with the wrong people, but blame them. But there's no point of blaming them because you're the one that chooses to surround yourself with them. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
I get that.
And I suppose at the end of the day, it's more just kind of realizing and making part with yourself, really.
Yeah. I totally agree with that.
But I mean, yeah. I don't think there's too much more to talk about on that. I think that was a great back and forth there about that, though. You've came out
Yeah.
with some really good points, and for
Thanks.
someone that was scared about the ice bath, you've came in and actually smashed it. You
No,
don't
the
even.
ice. It's actually quite relaxing.
It is.
It's just I don't know. It feels weird because I'm sitting in freezing cold water, but
Mm.
at the same time, it's nice.
Yeah.
Quite like it. So
I wish I had slept in for cold ones. So if we had done it a bit earlier, it was absolutely gleaming with the sun, man, and it would have been so
oh
much
man, I
better.
was sweating. I was actually excited to get into the ice bath.
But we cut that short by me being a lazy bastard and ended up sleeping in. But I suppose that's us coming up for a 5 minute finisher. So what we'll do is we'll catch you over in the post plunge warm up, but it's a lot warmer and we can get a better chat going.
Thank fuck. Oh,
Are you gonna go in there?
I can hate it, man. Oh, I'm ready for it. It's fine. I'm ready.
So that's us into the post plunge warm up. Sophie, how was that cold plunge for you?
It was quite nice. I did enjoy it. I really liked it. I thought it was good.
So I've got a lot of respect for the way you reacted there, to be honest. Against half the folk that have done this so far, you've probably been one of the best reactions to the actual water, if I'm being honest. Like that, I was quite surprised from the get-go, because you kind of sat in, you were just kind of looking at me like I was looking at you, because I'm just chill when I get in the water, and you were just like, this isn't even that bad. I was like, that's so
I think
lit.
it's because I had like so much like I was so anxious to get in it that see by the time I got in it and realized it wasn't that bad, I was fine.
Yeah, it's all about breathing, getting yourself in a comfortable position, and just being as comfortable as you can in the waters, I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
It's all just mind over matter, over matter. But for Sophie's episode, we're gonna kind of change over the way back to how it used to be, because it's more normal for me to kind of speak to one of my close pals in that sort of way and get more information out of them that I don't really know. You know what I mean? So what I wanted to start off with today is, obviously, you probably don't know this, but Sophie's kind of went through the homeless kind of route of life and stuff. So kind of what I wanted to know from that is, what is kind of the process to start off with when you go from like trying to go through the homeless thing? What's it kind of like?
Well, to start off with, obviously you have to like I went down to the council. You have to declare yourself homeless and whatnot. And then you get sent through like a bunch of meetings and that. And to be fair, they're all like super lovely and that. So it's not like I wouldn't say it's scary, but at the same time, it's slightly scary because you're making yourself homeless. But you go through all those meetings and stuff, and then they kind of tell you like roughly how long you'd be waiting to get a house, and then they try and know like what your income is and how often you work and stuff. And I got told it'd be about 2 years to wait for a house. But luckily enough, the lady I was working with was close friends with a girl called Katie, who runs the Rock Trust, which is the unit I stay in. And so they managed to get me into that unit with all my roommates and that to, because like it's like a charity type thing, so it's to reduce teen homelessness. So it's quite good that I get to live with other teenagers in that aspect. So that's pretty much like the whole way you go about it. I mean, for other people, it's always like completely different in that because there's some people who do like live on the streets, and I think that's a pretty big like misconception in that, especially when it comes to like there's always so many people that are like deemed as homeless in certain ways. And I think when I first like brung up that I was homeless and that, a lot of people did just think, I was just crashing on a bench like in front of the center and stuff. Yeah. So I mean, that's not what it's like, but yeah.
That's fair. So like, what was like kind of the transformation kind of like from going from living like in your family house to kind of then living within a house kind of unit thing with other people that you don't really know as much, right? Obviously, I think you already knew a couple of them, but you've kind of had to now live with them as such.
Yeah.
It's like,
I mean, it's not too different. I mean, I can say like due to my own personal life, it's not too different. I mean, I lived in a pretty big house. There was 7 of us, so living with like 6 other people, it's not that different. Sometimes we clash. I mean, we're all teenagers. We get pissed off each other, stuff like that. But at the same time, we've all got this really good bond now because we all know like we can trust each other. There's constant times where we'll sit down, we'll have dinner and that together. We'll hang out and stuff. But going from like it's so different because there's living with siblings and then there is living with strangers.
Yeah.
And for the first couple months, it was awkward. I mean, the only person I knew was Oscar, and I knew him from primary school, so it wasn't like terrible. I could like keep a conversation going with him, but at the same time, I knew him when I was 12. Yeah. But everyone else, I just had to like start off with being like, "I'm Sophie," like, "How you doing?" stuff like that, and then it's just kind of gaining that bond. Whereas like when I lived with like family, like they're my family. It's not like I need to try and be like, "How's your day been?" type of thing. Like it's it's different, but it's also like slightly the same.
So on that kind of note as well, like within the whole like you've got obviously homelessness and you're in a unit right now. Have you got any other news about kind of where you might be moving to, or have you got any other news that could be quite?
Well, see, it was meant to go like, I pay rent to this place, and then kind of it depends on how much you pay for rent. It sounds so daft, but I've got other roommates who make more than me, make less than me, certain stuff like that. And with the amount that you put in for rent and that, you're more likely to get like a better house, or if
Mm-hmm.
you put less in, you're more likely to get a flat and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And it also depends on how long you've been declared homeless. So for me now, it's been over a year. So I'm still obviously on the list, but I'm more likely now to get a place.
Yeah.
Especially because I also do pay like a lot more in rent. Because I mean, I say I have a steady job, I quit it, but it's not the point. I did have a steady job, that helped me keep that income and whatnot. So it just kind of depends. You can literally get a house whenever. Like there's some people who like declared homelessness, and like due to their own situation they can instantly get put into a
Yeah.
house. And that's what they said to me. They were like, you can, so say I was crashing with Mark for a while, and they did say, they were like, you can continue crashing with him, you can go back and live with your parents but still technically be deemed as
Yeah.
homeless. But I did think, moving into the rock trust would be better for me. And to be fair, it gives me that own, like, obviously it's not my house, but at the
Yeah.
same time it kind of feels like it is.
Yeah.
I've got my own room, I've got a bathroom which we've got two bathrooms which we share, and we've got a kitchen which we share. But at the same time, I get to go in, make my dinner whenever I want, go to bed whenever I want. It's just kind of those things in which I'm not having like someone else in my room being like, oh, I'm trying to go to bed now,
Yeah.
like, can you like not have your TV so loud, stuff like that. But I mean, I'm hoping to get a house soon.
Yeah, I feel like taking that opportunity to have somewhere to stay within your own kind of boundary is definitely a better idea than crashing it or just staying on it until better comes. You know what I mean? So like, I mean, a lot of people probably out there that have ever maybe considered or thought about maybe like filing for the homelessness sort of route. How would you kind of ease them into maybe saying that it is a good idea, because a lot of people probably worry a lot and get to a point where they don't do it because they're so worried about the process. Is there any like kind of maybe not tips as such, but more like things that you could say to someone that would maybe help them be like maybe eased into it a bit better?
I mean, it also kind of depends on the person. I'd say you need to, like, you can't be too overly emotional about it, because there's going to be times where you're going to have to sit in that meeting and they're going to tell you, like, listen, you could be in this place for 2 years.
Yeah.
And that's a tough thing to hear.
Yeah.
And especially like it also doesn't, like, see, if you've got like a terrible like family life, whatever, and you really want to get out of it, it is a good thing to do, only because not only does it get you away from the situation, it makes you feel better, you're doing everything for yourself, it makes you feel like a bigger person. But at the same time, like, if things are just iffy and you still kind of want to leave, but you're so used to relying on your parents, like, that was a really big setback for me. I was so used to, living with all my siblings, having like dinner cooked for me at certain times, being able to go home after school and stuff. So it was such a big change to
Yeah.
go into this place in which, you are doing everything on your own. But it's not a terrible thing. Like, it is good. It's just trying to have that mindset of knowing that you are actually doing things more beneficial for yourself, and it's actually quite good for you.
Yeah, definitely matures you up a bit, because
Mhm.
the whole dinner thing and that, I think for a lot of families it's quite a normalized thing for your like family to kind of make the dinners, and you get very used to that. And it's good to take that leap kind of to grow up a bit earlier. Not saying that it's like it's all sunshine and rainbows going into like the homeless route and stuff,
Yeah.
but definitely for maturing up and stuff, like you're maturing up a lot younger than you probably usually would, which
Yeah.
is it's good. Gives you a bit of experience for when you have a family and stuff as well, which is definitely something good to get early, because if it's too late, then
Yeah. Yeah.
you
No,
end up
no.
getting into that stuff and it's all just a lot.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, that's a really good insight, to be fair. And I thought for Sophie as well, like there's not many folk that I know personally that kind of went through this kind of process or this route. So I thought it'd be a really good opportunity, because it's like it's definitely something that I know a lot of people struggle with.
Yeah, I think a lot of people tend to also be embarrassed about it.
Mm.
Like, that was a pretty big thing for me when I first came to it. Like, I didn't like using the word homelessness, because I also had that image of my head that everyone who's homeless, looks ragged and they're sat outside like begging for change type of thing. And like, don't get me wrong, there's people out there who are like that.
Yeah.
So it made it like such a nervous thing to tell people like I'm homeless. But then like it honestly just kind of like depends. Like, if you're willing to open up to someone about it, it's quite nice, because they're quite understanding about
Yeah.
it, so it's good.
You know, it takes a lot of balls to be able to talk about stuff like that, and I can
Mhm.
definitely see why that would be the case, because it's definitely something like that is very easy for someone to try and just actually drag you down and degrade you for, because it's like we were talking before, more misfortune in that. It's like
Mhm.
folk will be like, "Oh, well, you caused that. You done this. You done that. It's your fault." But at the end of the day, like that's where I can see kind of luck coming into things. Because
Mhm.
I mean, in some ways, you could maybe argue that you're lucky that you've managed to get somewhere to
Yeah.
stay in that
Yeah.
way. But it's definitely like things in life, they build up and then they break down to whatever situation you end up in. You know what I mean? And
Mhm.
but you're lucky. You're lucky you have somewhere nice to stay, and you've got lucky as well with the people you're staying with, I suppose.
Yeah.
Because there's not. I mean, there's definitely problems in your place, and
Oh.
I know this because I hear about this all the time. But
Aye.
they could definitely be worse problems, I think.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
So you got lucky in that way, and like, cause you say like it's a lot of younger folk, you will clash, but you at least will still kind of stay on the same level ground because you're all similar ages and stuff.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's probably a good place to start off, end off that homeless chat.
Mhm.
Absolutely great place to talk, and I actually really enjoyed listening to that because it's good for me to kind of get an insight as well.
Yeah.
But the next thing I wanted to ask you is, obviously for me, I've got two siblings,
Mhm.
but for you, you've got what? How many
Four
siblings? So you
siblings.
got four siblings.
Four sisters.
So
Yeah.
for you, what was it like growing up with kind of that many siblings kicking about? Because it's quite a big family. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
I think for especially for my sisters and that as well, and especially for me, the biggest thing was it was bonding.
Hmm.
Like I found it easier to like bond with one of my sisters like one on one and stuff, and like we all got into watching like certain things or having similar hobbies and that, so it made it quite good. But then it was also like bonding with parents because obviously like not that I blame them in any sort of way, but they can't give all of their attention to all of their kids all at
Yeah.
once. So like sometimes you felt like distant from like one of your other sisters or from your parents and whatnot because they are paying attention to other kids.
Yeah.
Especially because with me being the second oldest, all of obviously my three younger sisters are younger than me, so they get not trying to say more attention, but they need to be looked after more, especially
Yeah.
with like Lucy and Violet, they're 9 now, so it's kind of like or they're eight or nine. They're one of
Shouldn't
the
have
two.
brought the ages into it, like.
Shit, my bad. Forgot what age they were there. But yeah, I think it was just more like an attention thing. But at the same time, it was also so nice to have like so many people around you that
Yeah.
shared like a similar interest. So like there was never a dull moment in that house. There was either like so much laughter or so much shouting that it was there was either one of the two. But it was nice. I did enjoy it.
A lot of opportunity to bond, I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of all sisters as well. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
all
That's a
sisters.
whole lot of
Rough. I feel bad
yeah.
for my
That's a
dad.
whole lot of stuff going on, man. But I mean, like within that as well, like because you've got it. It sounds so dumb, but you've got quite a lot. Like you said, like you've got quite a bit of competition. Did you actually like kind of notice that? Is it like I'm not like saying anything about your parents or that, but like within like the whole fact of you having so many siblings, is it like did it feel a bit like a competition?
It slightly did, especially because like obviously everyone knows like everyone always makes this big joke the middle child is like the least looked after,
Yeah.
blah blah blah, and it was kind of like that when we were younger, only because when I was the middle child before Lucy and Violet came along, like my little sister was in the younger classes and that, and she got more attention because she was younger.
Yeah.
You had Abby who was like moving off to high school and whatnot, so she also gained a little bit more attention because she's moving up in
Yeah.
life, stuff like that. And I was just a middle child, and then Lucy and Violet came along, and then we were like, I think that's why I've got so close to like Libby and Abby, is because when they came along, like my parents' attention kind of shifted on them, like
Yeah.
they had twins, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like of course their attention's gonna go to that. So there was definitely competition,
Yeah.
especially because like we all tried so hard in school in that because we always wanted to be the one that was like, I'm better than you, like I got a higher grade than you in that. But it was like friendly competition.
Yeah.
It's not like we battered each
Yeah,
other
these
over
are
it.
sisters. Like
Yeah.
you will have competition, man. It's a normal thing in walk of life.
Mm-hmm.
It's like from my experience, like because I'm the youngest child, so I mean my mum and dad have never like I would say pick or chosen between
Mhm.
everybody. We've all been kind of, but I mean at the same time like our age groups are very different. It's like 5 years between even my sister and my brother, and then me and my brother are like 5 or 6 years as well.
Mhm.
So it's like massive gaps between us. So we all were in completely different walks of life at points. Like you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I was going into primary school, he was leaving to go for high school, kind of like what you were talking about.
Mhm.
It's like there's massive. It's a bit different in that respect because it's like your child comes along, you can have to look after them and that. So my whole story about my siblingship isn't really anything to run off. Plus, me, my sister, and my brother, we've always just got on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's nothing like there's never been any bad blood there or any beef. So, but I mean, like, oh, I don't know, man. I don't know where to lead this that doesn't kind of take it into a spiraling situation. You know what I mean?
Just anything. Just ask random ass questions.
Well, dude,
I'm here to answer them, so it's fine.
obviously, only answer if you feel comfortable. But
Mhm.
within like the whole like family thing as well, do you think that's kind of what pushed you out of your house to then
Oh,
go for
it
homelessness?
it was absolutely. I mean, I lived like with us being in the type of house that we were with them being seven of us. I did share a room with my little sister. And so I think that was like the biggest thing is because I was clashing with her so much. Like
Mm,
we were in a room together, like if she was sick and I was trying to sleep and she had that like really like groggy nose, I was gonna get pissed off. Like I'm
yeah,
trying to sleep, you know what I mean? And then that's kind of how it turned into like me and her clashing, and then like my parents clashing was because I was getting so annoyed and I was like, you guys need to help me out with this. But at the same time, like they couldn't
hmm,
because like it's not like they could just make the house bigger, you know what I
yeah,
mean? And so it was kind of clashing with my siblings that then allowed me to like clash
yeah.
with my parents and that. So it just yeah,
Aye,
it's just how it works with
whatever
siblings.
you've kind of got to your disposal can cause like stuff like that in your family, I
Mm-hmm.
suppose. And that's a really tough thing as well because like in that same sort of sense, I suppose like any time I've spoke to you, you definitely speak to your parents and that quite a lot. Like now,
Mm-hmm.
more
Yeah, no,
probably and a
absolutely,
lot
yeah.
better than you did kind of when you were in the house. Because I remember when we first kind of became pals, and you were talking about how it was quite rough in your house and that. But now
Mm-hmm.
you like see your parents outside that, and
Yeah.
that maybe kind of helped you get probably a better
Oh,
bond.
it did. Like, see, when I told them that I declared homelessness, obviously, like, it's not like they like shunned me out or anything. They were also like they're gonna be pissed off. Like their
Yeah,
daughters just left them and declared
yeah,
homelessness. You know what I mean? But then when it came to the day of me actually moving out, like I had Mark there helping me, but my dad and my mom also like helped me in that. And I do think getting out of the situation like has really really helped it.
yeah,
Like it allows me to like my mom will just text me every so often, being like, "What are you getting up to? Like, how are you doing?" and that. So it does make it a wee bit easier to like talk to them and bond with them because I'm not living my life in their house now, so
yeah,
I've got so much more to talk to them about. Like
yeah,
if anything happens, like outside of work or something in my personal life that they don't know about, it's a good conversation
yeah,
starter with them. So it's definitely allowed me to bond with them
yeah.
more.
That kind of freedom and maturity comes through when you're
Yeah.
talking to your parents now. That's good though. Like that's what you always hope to happen when you kind of like you say you get yourself out of the situation. You hope that it gets better rather than it gets worse. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like was that a worry for you? Did you think that like that was gonna
Yeah.
happen
Like
between you?
I'm more grateful for it now. Like see when it first came about, like I'm not saying I was a raging bitch, but when it first did come about, I was kind of like, I don't care what they say. Like I want to get out. I want to have my own freedom, stuff like that. And then when I realized that it did kind of like genuinely upset them, the fact
Mm,
that I was leaving, and that I was kind of like, am I a terrible person for doing this? But at the same time, I was doing it for the benefit of them and for me.
yeah,
And they kind of grasped the fact that I wasn't doing it out of spite, and I was just genuinely doing it to better myself as a person. That it's kind of allowed us to be like, we're getting on, so it's
yeah.
good.
No, that's absolutely perfect. That's what you want. That's what you
Yeah.
want. I mean, I feel like we've slammed your family like
I
completely there
know.
as well. So the last thing I was going to ask you, and this only kind of came to me while I was speaking there about all
Mhm.
that stuff. I was going to ask you kind of how do you feel, right? How do you think that? So I know like a very usual thing for people like you're only 18, right?
Mhm, yeah.
And you only turned 18 last year.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
So it's like for a lot of people that turn 18, they go on this like mad rampage where they start going out and getting drunk and all that all the time. And I literally just thought about that right now. The fact that you've never really done that.
Nah.
So do you think that because either you're in a relationship or your situation, why do you think that's not kind of really came about for you? Because I think I've got a lot of respect for it because I
Mhm.
remember when I turned 18, the first thing I thought about was going out, and I was out like every single day
Yeah.
for like months.
Like I don't know what it was. I feel like, you know, you're not really a teenager in Scotland if you weren't out in fields drinking bottles of vodka at 13, you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
fair,
And
absolutely.
so I like I went through that phase, and
Yeah,
like I think pretty much everyone did. So I was constantly going out with friend groups, like drinking and whatnot, and I always wanted that to be my limit.
yeah,
Like I think growing up, like I never really had many like fears and whatever. And when people came into schools to do TED Talks and that, like I didn't really care much.
mm,
But for some reason the drugs ones always stuck to me.
mm,
And I don't know what it was. I feel like I don't know. Like obviously I know that obviously there's so many different types of drugs that do so many different types of things. But then hearing about the types of stuff they can do and like the trips and that they can put you through and all that stuff, it really did just like put a fear in with me. So anytime like anyone was like, oh, let's go out and like let's go do drugs and all that, I'd always like back myself out. And as much as I wanted to feel included in that friend
Mm-hmm.
group and whatnot, I really didn't want to turn to the side of
Yeah.
drugs. So I never did. Like I'll still drink. Like I love getting drunk. No problem with it. But I won't touch drugs. Like I've smoked weed before. Like realistically, who hasn't? Like come on. But other than that, I won't. I even then I wouldn't go back to that.
Yeah.
That was like a I'm trying this out for the first
Yeah.
time ever. Like, but other than that, I would never touch any sort of drugs. I don't like them. I just don't like the thought of what they could actually do to your body,
Yeah.
and it really scares me.
Yeah. Yeah, that's like with my episode. I kind of spoke about how like not. I think the biggest problem for like drugs and stuff for like people is the fact that they don't really know in depth what happens. It's not you get told what kind of happens and like the effects of like your psychosis and when you take a drug, but you never really get told about what it does to your body, kind of
Mhm.
what can actually be in drugs. The thing is, drugs are like man-made. It's not like they're this magical thing that the government make to then give to people that are like safely like
Yeah.
processed and checked. It's all just random stuff, and it depends on how desperate the person that's selling them is as well.
Mhm.
So like they could put anything in it.
Yeah.
They could be bleach. They could be stuff that's completely unconsumable to your body. But like a lot of people don't know these things. It's like it's only kind of what's painted as what's going to happen, like all this great things. Like I've always said that. I remember back when I was younger, I used to tell folk, "Oh, you need to try it. It's an experience."
Yeah.
But now I tell you just not to do it because it ruins your life
Mhm.
and it ruins your body. And it's like it's not the short-term effects that happen. You get addicted to the short-term effects because they're so enjoyable and they're so out of like
Yeah.
body. But it's the long-term effects you need to worry about. Like your life completely crashes when you do it for too long. If you get addicted to it, that's your life basically over. Like
Yeah.
if you're fully addicted to it, you obviously can't come back from that. But especially at a young age, if you get addicted to drugs, your money just disappears. Everything just it's all gone.
Especially at your social life and that as well, because even if you've done drugs with your friends and whatnot, like if you're going down the path of becoming like a really bad drug addict and you go like super duper loopy and whatnot, even if your friends done drugs with you, I doubt that they're gonna want to stick around for
Yeah.
that. So that's why I feel so bad for certain people that have done drugs and whatnot, because they could have so much going on in their
Mhm.
personal life, and you know when they take those drugs and it makes them like have that buzz and it makes them feel a bit better, they're gonna continue turning to
Yeah.
it because it's the only comfort that they have. So
Absolutely.
then when they lose everything to it, it's sad.
Yeah. Nah, absolutely. It's a hard one because there's so much to talk about in that sort of thing, and I would love to. I actually had one of my pals tell me that I should try and get in touch with my last school and go and speak about my story. And I
Mhm.
actually thought that was a really good idea, like doing like a kind of TED talk that you were
Yeah.
talking about and going in. Because obviously when I got involved with all that stuff like properly, I was only like 13, 14
Yeah, you were
years
in
old.
high school at the time, yeah.
So like for me, it would be a great opportunity to go and talk to like the younger ones because it's usually the younger kids that don't have like a clue. Like obviously in PSE, I remember we used to talk about it and stuff, but that's not from personal opinion. That's from what they're told.
Mhm.
Whereas if you're getting that from someone that was at that age and kind of what happens actually through your life when you actually do it, it's not. It's never about what actions you take. It's about the actions that then cause all the problems around you. You know what I mean? And it's the people that you're hurting. That's what drugs do to you.
Yeah.
It's the people you hurt that's the really defining difference between taking drugs to enjoy it and taking drugs to ruin your life. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
And I feel like it was a lot different from when you were younger as well, because I feel like the only time, especially with like obviously we're similar ages and whatnot, but when I was younger, like I never really like heard about drugs like on the news, or it was never like publicized in that. It was just the type of people that would come into your school and like be like, smoking's bad for you and like these drugs are super duper bad for you and whatnot. But I feel like now like the kids that like would have been like our age at the time and whatnot, like it is so like publicized that you've got the vapes that are like targeted for like younger kids and that, like they've all got social media like TikTok and all that type of stuff. Like there is people that do post about it, like you know, being like drugs are cool and they're like flaunting it and that. And so if no one's going to these kids being like these are the side effects and all this stuff, the only thing they're seeing about these drugs is that they're
Positives.
they're awesome
Yeah.
and they're gonna end up doing it, which is terrible.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. It's good that you never got involved with it though, because that's something that I wish that I had dodged. I mean, to be fair, like I spoke about when me and Mark were speaking about my episodes, where we did speak about the fact that in most cases you will end up doing it at some point in your life if you've ran down the wrong side of your life and that. But and we said we were lucky that we ended up doing it so young, because then now we look at it and we're like we understand everything about it. But it's definitely something that's brushed under the carpet for a lot of people. And if there was more knowledge about it, definitely everyone would be having a lot easier a time. Like, and the thing is, it's not even about telling folk not to do it. It's about telling folk the dangers. That's the important thing.
Yeah, like
'Cause
if they're gonna do it, it's not on your head.
Yeah.
It's on theirs. But at the same time, they should know the side
Yeah.
effects and that of it.
Yeah, they need to know the background within what the dangers are, you know what I mean? And that's the important thing. It's not about whether you take it or not. And the thing is as well, like, I'll never look at someone that takes drugs and go, oh, you're such a waste of space now, because one, it'd be hypocritical from me, but two, I understand where they're coming from. Like, in life, it can get tough. And when it does get tough, sometimes that is an easy way out for people. And you know what, comfortability for people, even though it is drugs and you shouldn't say that getting comfortable in drugs is a good
but
thing.
you know, I get what
But
you mean.
you can kind of still see why folk do it. And I understand, because at that point in my life, I'd done it for a reason. And I think everyone has a reason when they end up stuck in it. It's when fun becomes a problem that you then need to try and get a hold of it, because you don't, like I said, you don't want to get involved with drugs and be addicted to them and stuff. It's a hard thing to come back from.
Yeah, especially you don't want to go into it with the mindset of like, this is gonna be epic. Like,
Yeah.
I'm doing drugs, you know what I mean? Like, like going into it with that mindset and then just getting hit with everything alongside with it, without it just being like super cool drugs, it's gonna be like petrifying for that person.
Absolutely. Well, I feel like that spiraled into a completely different conversation.
Was so random.
I was like, oh, you didn't drink much when you were 18, and now it's just like drugs, mate.
Just drugs, yeah.
That's all right with me though. I enjoy talking about stuff like that, because like when folk, I think a lot of people, when I see a lot of people not talking about these things, I don't think that they can have a grasp on it. But even for someone like you that's never really took them, the fact that you've just been able to speak about them in kind of the same like-minded way as me, it's good, because it shows that people maybe do have more knowledge than I maybe thought. But I mean, I think what we'll do is, that's quite a good bit of chat we've got going there. So I think what we'll do is we'll move on to the Instagram rewind, and we'll get a little reaction off of a photo from your Instagram.
Sound.
So that's us into the Instagram rewind section. And what we do in this is we pick a photo off Instagram, we get a little bit of a backstory and what the thoughts and feelings are when they see this photo. So for us, we've picked this one for Sophie. So we've got this photo right here. What's your thoughts and feelings on this post?
I mean, I like the post. I don't know. It's a picture of me and Mark from his birthday. It was his birthday. I was thinking it was our anniversary. It was from his birthday. Yeah.
That's alright.
Oh my god, don't. I've got a lot of bellers of Mark from work. This is one of my favorites because he looks like a hipster. So I quite like it because he looks daft. So it's
he looks quite chill, bro. He looks chill.
He looks like he's chilling. This is another picture of Mark from right before he was gonna go to sleep. Like one of my favorite things about taking pictures and videos of Mark is see like, not when he looks his worst, not like that. I mean, he always looks great, not the point. But it's, you know, when he's not expecting it and I just take a picture. It's these types of pictures and I can't help but laugh at them because he doesn't expect it and he's just staring at the camera, you know what I mean? It's great. I love those photos.
Zoned in, man.
It's literally just another one of those pictures. He actually took that picture. I don't know why. I can't remember why. I just felt like posting it because it's cute.
Oh.
And this is a video of Mark eating my Pringles, may I add.
Why is it not playing?
I text him saying my Pringles are at your house, and this is the video he sent me back of him taking about 6 to 7 Pringles and shoving them in his mouth. So, I had to post it. I mean, he's chowing down on handfuls of Pringles. Of course I'm gonna post that.
Oh man. Oh, that's quite a good little Instagram rewind. That's a very different one. Like usually it's just a wee family photo, but this is it's also kind of sympathizes with me on like a personal level as well, because I love Mark.
Yeah.
So it's good to hear good things getting spoken about.
One of the greatest things we've got in common. So
exactly. Yeah. No. It's one of the only. But yeah, we'll just end off the Instagram rewind there. It's just a short little section that it kind of adds a bit more personality to the whole Cold Wans experience.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, at the end of that, man, there's only really one more thing I've got to ask you, and this is how we end off every single Cold Wans episode. Mm-hmm. And the question is, if you could say one thing to everyone watching, what would it be?
Just grow the balls and do it. Like, I was so scared to come do this, right? And see actually doing it, it feels great. Like, it's so nice to just, Like even the ice bath, it was lovely. Like it was cold. I mean, that's the whole point of it. But it was nice to be in, and it like all the anxiety just went away because as soon as I sat in, I was like, this isn't terrible. So it's just just do it.
Yeah.
It's good.
Another Nike slogan for us. I
God,
respect
don't
it though.
even.
No, I respect it though. Like it is. It's one of those things. Like you were sitting there panicking. I was telling you it's gonna be fine. Like it always is. It's always about kind of pushing yourself past what you're willing to do. You know what I mean? And I think once you do it as well, you feel so rewarded because you've done something that you didn't think you would do. And I think that's the most important thing. And I think that's what a lot of people need to learn from because it's always just about the experience. It's not really about, you're not going to get hurt in this experience either.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, the cold bath is definitely not a temperature that you're going to be in there and you're going to actually damage yourself. So it's like, it's just mind over matter, you know what I mean? It's definitely a good thing to go over. And I think a lot of people do need to learn from stuff like that. And I think you're going to be a great representation of that. And I'm really happy that you have done this as well because
I am genuinely like proud of myself. Like it's a good thing. Obviously, I'm pals with you, so it's nice to just sit and chat. But at the same time, I am just, I'm proud of myself, just growing the balls and doing it.
Pushing yourself out your comfort zone, and that's what it's all about. It shows
Never
willingness.
in my life did I think I'd be sat in your back garden in an ice bath, but it's fine because I've done it.
To be fair, I never thought I would be doing something like this either, but here we are. We all come out the other end better off. Well, I mean, aside from that, I mean, thank you for coming on.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me. It was great.
I've got a lot of appreciation for it, and being the second woman to come on to it as well. Got to envy it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I got to envy it. It's a hard demographic to kind of get folk on for because I think maybe for lassies it's a little bit more. I don't really know what to go for.
I think more women are just more uncomfortable just speaking.
Yeah.
Like obviously most women just talk, but at the same time it's difficult to be like put in that position where you have to sit down and you need to talk.
Yeah.
But
that's fair. And I mean maybe it's just not something folk are looking for. That's fine though. Like we're having a great time on Cold Wans. I've got all the way up until July booked and we're gonna be still flying out with these episodes. We don't stop. It'll pay off eventually, guys. It'll pay off eventually for all you loyalists. But anyway, that'll be the ending to Cold Wans for this week. Yeah. I mean, there's not much else to say, is there?
Not really.
So I guess I'll see you again tomorrow.
Bye-bye.
To Cold Wans. If you're not this never happens either, man. This is what I mean. I need to get. If you're not familiar with what Cold Wans is a 5-minute cold plunge into the post-plunge warm-up where we get to know our guest. My fucking mate. This actually never happens.
I've made you nervous.
I've got a lot of
That's why it's your fault.
I know, mate, my fucking brain just. It's alright.